Hi, I'm Norm Stockton. Welcome to my home studio here in Southern California. I am here today with the Gallien-Krueger Fusion 550. All the cool features and quality that have made GK legendary, but now with the full implementation of tubes. That's right, it's an all-tube preamp with 3 of the highest quality 12AX7s available. All of the functions that are typically done with op amps are done with tubes. 3-rack space unit, motorized knobs, which is a very cool feature I'll show you in a second. But 500 watts into a 4-ohm load with a separate 50-watt amp just allocated to the horn when it's in biamp mode, designed and built in the US, another stellar amp from GK. In the usual manner, what I'd like to do is do a quick overview, and then we'll go control by control, and you can really hear what's going on. And as usual, I want to really recommend that you plug in some headphones or some speakers so that you can really hear what's happening with the low end. Phone or computer speakers don't generally do a really good job of that. So starting on the left side of the front panel, you've got your input jack, you've got your active passive switch, your channel 1, channel 2 selector, your gain knob, and this is the first of all of your motorized knobs. Very, very cool. Then you have the tone shaping section. There's the contour knob, which does a bit of mid cutting, and your center frequency selector for that, as well as your bright and deep switches. 4-band active EQ. Then you have your horn biamp knob, which allows you to control the level of the horn when you're in biamp mode. Your master volume, your tuning mute, your power button. And then on the rear panel, you have your balance DI with a ground lift and pre and post EQ buttons, as well as a DI level knob. You have your foot switch jack, which goes with the provided foot switch that allows you to switch back and forth between your channel 1 and channel 2 settings with those motorized faders. Again, very cool. You have your tuner out jack. You have an effects send and return. You have your 1/4-inch speaker outputs as well as your speak-on outputs, and those are for running in biamp mode. We'll talk about that in a moment. All right, so let's go ahead and go control by control. Starting on the left side of the front panel, you've got your input jack, always good to plug in there. And then you have your active passive switch, and this is basically a 10 dB pad. So if you have a really high output bass, then it's a good idea to maybe put that into active mode just to make sure that you're not clipping at the input stages. But if you don't hear any clipping happening, then just leave it in passive mode, that's fine. Then you have your channel 1, channel 2 selector. One of the awesome features with the Fusion 550 is that with these motorized knobs, you can set up 2 entirely different channel settings and go back and forth with the touch of a foot switch or with this switch here. So you probably noticed in the demo that I went from kind of a little bit crunchier sound to more of a clean sound. And so I'm not doing extreme settings. And by the way, let me just preface this by saying that I can't do anything too extreme in here because I have an overhead mic recording my vocal and I'm trying not to overdrive that, as well as an open speaker because I really wanted to get a mic'd cabinet for the overdrive sound of this. But suffice it to say, when you're demoing this on your own in the store, you can really kind of go a little bit more crazy with this. But in this setting here, I'm hitting the preamp stage. This gain knob is your preamp gain. So when I go to this setting, I'm definitely pushing those tubes a little harder, so I'm getting a little bit more of the saturation thing. And then this is a little bit of a cleaner sound. But all of these knobs are motorized and can be set so that you can instantly access between 2 scenes. Plus, it kind of looks cool, right? So anyway, this is your preamp gain. And then you have the tone shaping section. This contour knob does some mid cutting. And so this switch allows you to switch back and forth between 500 and 800, so you can kind of get a little bit more precise with the type of mid-cutting you're wanting to do. But when this is all the way off, it'll be completely flat, and then the more you do this, the more you turn it up, the more mid-cutting it'll do. So let me go ahead and make everything flat so you can really hear what's going on. I'll set that to 500, so here you go. It's totally flat right now. So let's go back to this and we'll go flat, but now it's at 800. All right, so you can definitely get that mid-scoop thing if you want to. And again, this is a motorized fader, so you can, if you want to use that just for your solo or just for a certain section of the song, you have complete freedom to just access it occasionally. I'm going to go ahead and leave it off right now just so you can hear what the amp sounds like flat. In terms of the bright and deep, these are basically supplemental tone shaping. The bright would get you right around 10K, so it definitely gives some sparkle on top. So, right? Got to be careful not to distort my recording, especially with this deep, which is down around 30, so it's really low. But shaking everything in my studio. And then you have the 4-band active EQ. So let's start out with the highs. You can really make it crisp, or you can really warm it up. Okay, I'm going to leave it flat for right now. Then you've got your high mids. Good tone shaping right there. Then you have your low mids. Use my fingernail to get a little bit of treble in there. So you can really thin it out if you want to, or really give it some thickness. All right, then we've got our lows, and I'm going to be careful with this again, just to make sure I don't distort my recording. So you can really thin it out if you want to. Everything in my studio is shaking right now. Very, very powerful EQ. Moving on, you've got your horn biamp knob. When you're running the Fusion 550 in biamp mode, you would plug into any of GK's biampable cabinets using one of their proprietary speak-on cables. And through that single cable, you can send signals separately to the highs and the lows. So in this case, the 50-watt amp in this box would send audio 5K and above to the horn, and then separately, all of the other signal would go to the woofers. This horn biamp control allows you to set the level, the relative level of that horn. So it really allows you to get very precise with your tone shaping. And again, it's a motorized knob, so you have control. You know, if you wanted to have that sort of more pronounced for one of your sounds that you use on one section of the song, but not the other, then you have foot switchable access to that. Then you have your master volume, and aside from the fact that it is also a motorized knob, which is very cool, another very cool feature with this master volume is that it maintains the relative ratio between the horn and the woofer that you establish with this knob here. So you can get louder or quieter without destroying that balance. So if you wanted something where the horn is definitely more pronounced, you know, you could turn up like so, and then if you brought the volume up or down, that ratio would be maintained. So very useful and musical feature. Moving on, you've got your tuning mute. And when you turn that on, then that allows the provided foot switch to set this into either muted or unmuted mode. So when you go into muted mode, then you can see that the blue LED around the power button starts blinking, and that lets you know that you're in mute mode, which is awesome because if you're on a dark stage and you can't get any signal, you know, this lets you know, hey, dummy, you're in tuning muted mode. But this is an awesome feature that you could use in conjunction with that tuner out jack on the rear panel. You plug your tuner in there, and when you're in this mode, then the signal is still going to that tuner out jack, so you can tune between songs without having to have everybody in the venue participating in that, okay? But then otherwise, it's unmuted and you're ready to go. That power button, by the way, even the power button on GK amps are cool and well thought out. When you first power up the Fusion 550, that LED around the power button will be red, and then once it's powered up, it'll turn blue. If you're ever getting dirty power in the venue, it'll turn red again, and as soon as the power issue is resolved, it'll turn back to blue. So between the red and the blue and the blinking blue, it really gives you a lot of information about the status of the Fusion 550. Then moving to the rear panel, you've got GK's great sounding DI with a couple of awesome real-world valuable features. You've got a ground lift. You also have a pre and post EQ selector, which allows you, you may want to do something EQ-wise on stage that may not be optimal for the front of house. So this allows you to either send them a flat signal or send them completely the EQ settings that you're using on stage, whatever you want to do. And then there's a DI level knob, because a lot of times at the venue they're saying, hey, can I get a little bit more or a little less from you? This allows you to separately control the send to them without having any sort of adjustment necessary on the front panel. Then you have your foot switch jack, which again goes with that provided foot switch to allow you to switch back and forth between channel 1 and channel 2 settings, as well as the tuning mute. You have your tuner out jack. You have an effects send and return. You've got 1/4-inch speaker outputs if you wanted to use those. Otherwise, you've got speak-on connectors, and those would typically be used when you're running the Fusion 550 in biamp mode, and it allows you using GK's proprietary speak-on cables. Again, these aren't like standard PA speak-on cables. These are wired to allow you to send 2 separate signals down one cable. So one signal that would be dedicated just to the horn, and then one that's dedicated just to the woofers, and you can run 2 biampable GK cabinets out of these speak-on outputs. All right, everything you love about the legendary GK tone, punch, reliability, quality, but with luscious tube goodness. I'm always encouraging people, though, not to just take my word for it. I definitely encourage you to go to a GK dealer and check it out for yourself. I'm positive you'll agree. But otherwise, you can go to Gallien.com if you want further information. This is the Gallien-Krueger Fusion 550. Go check it out. God bless you. I'm Norm Stockton, and I hope to see you on the road.